If guns in schools will prevent the flow of interstate commerce because people don't want to be near these schools or near the highways that are near the schools, doesn't Congress then have the authority to make laws such as this one?
Congress can reach guns in schools that are affecting commerce. It's the problem with this law is it reaches guns in schools that don't affect commerce. And every gun within 1,000 feet of a school, which we probably are right now, doesn't affect commerce. It doesn't really affect commerce until it's misused. What Congress did here was wrong is they simply, passed an act that we don't like guns around schools, and therefore we're going to outlaw it, and that's all they said, and they just can't do it that way.
Why not?
Why not? Because that's the way states do it.
Mr. Carter,
it's illegal in, I believe, 49 of the 50 states to carry a gun around a school. The only state that we couldn't find a law directly regulating that was Wyoming.
My organization filed an amicus curiae brief in this case with a coalition of national education and law enforcement organizations urging that this important public safety law be upheld.
Why? What does this have to do with interstate commerce at all?
We believe that the possession of guns in or near schools has a number of profound effects on interstate commerce. First of all, it seriously damages the effectiveness of our educational system, which also impacts this country's ability to produce productive citizens and our ability to compete in the world economy.
How does the possession of a gun within 1,000 feet of a school hurt education?
Well, obviously, the possession of the gun is the step before the use of the gun. Of course, the authorities must have the power to take the gun away from the child before he uses it and jeopardizes other children and teachers. So clearly, the possession of guns, even if they are never used, create an atmosphere of fear that is totally inimical to the educational process.
We're on the side of Mr. Lopez, and primarily because of the Commerce Clause, or rather the lack of a Commerce Clause nexus.
Before you start, let me just ask you a question that several of the justices raised. If the U.S. wins this case, what limits would there be on the federal government in terms of telling schools how to operate themselves?
Well, we take the position there is no limit whatsoever. That if this is constitutional exercise of the commerce power, then we can have federally regulated schools that the federal government could take over the schools. We would have no local control of any schools. Once you establish a plenary, which means expansive interpretation of the Commerce Clause, there's no limit to it. So we'd have regulation of schools like we do airlines or the trucking industry. And the problem in rural America, of course, is there are a lot of farmers and ranchers that have a .22 on the back of their pickup, and they drive within 950 feet of a school that's on the other side of the river that's closed, on a summer day, and they're in violation of federal law. They're openly, conceivably, could be prosecuted for 5 years and $10,000 fine.
But that's not what this.
In Texas, it's been a felony since 1974 to have a gun on school grounds.
What about federal law banning guns in schools?
Well, the problem is the Commerce Clause. Our government is a government of strictly enumerated powers. The federal government does not have the right to legislate on whatever it pleases.